For as long as we've been around, humans have had this really deep and sometimes kind of weird relationship with plants. But some of those relationships go way beyond just food or shelter. We're talking about plants with the power to change our consciousness itself. So yeah, let's dive into this wild and complex world of nature's visionary compounds.
And that's the big question, right? It's really the heart of what we're exploring today. From these super sacred rituals to, solitary personal experiments, this hunt for mind-altering plants is a thread that just runs through all of human history. So what is it about us, about our minds, that drives this exploration?
Okay, so let's start in a place that's straight out of folklore and, frankly, a little bit of fear, the legendary witch's garden of medieval Europe. This is where we find a whole family of plants that are as famous for their magical vibes as they are for their very, very real dangers. So meet deadly nightshade. Even its scientific name, Atropa belladonna, tells you everything. Atropos was one of the Greek fates, the one who literally cut the thread of life. And belladonna? That's Italian for beautiful woman, because women used its juice to dilate their pupils, which was considered attractive. But its most legendary role? A key ingredient in so-called flying ointments.
Now, belladonna wasn't working alone. It's part of this really potent plant family called Solanaceae, and this family includes some other famous names, like Mandrake, Henbane, and Datura. What they all have in common are these powerful chemicals called tropane alkaloids, and these are what cause intense hallucinations, making them the perfect ingredients for those legendary brews.
So here's the kicker. This wasn't hocus pocus in the way you might think. Those powerful alkaloids in the plants, they can be absorbed right through the skin. So when they were mixed into a fatty ointment and applied, well, they could induce these incredibly powerful hallucinations, including the actual sensation of flying or changing shape. That whole image of a witch on a broomstick was probably born from a very real and very intense drug trip.
And if you want a perfect example of how dangerous this stuff is, just look at how Datura got its common name, Jimson weed. It's actually a slurring of Jamestown weed. The story goes that some British soldiers back in 17th century Virginia were fed a salad that had Datura in it. The result? They were completely delirious for days, acting bizarrely. It's a pretty stark reminder of that super thin line between a visionary experience and just, being poisoned. Okay, so we've seen the dark, solitary side of these plants. Now, let's flip the script completely. Because a lot of cultures have woven these plants into the very fabric of their societies, using them not to escape, but to build and strengthen their communities.
And they can bring people together in totally different ways. On one hand, you have something like kava, this calming drink from the Pacific Islands. It's called a social inebriant. It just helps people relax and talk, kind of like a happy hour without the hangover. But then you've got cannabis, which has this long history as a sacred inebriant, used in religious ceremonies to help people connect with the divine.
And the history of cannabis is it's ancient and it's global. We're talking about it being listed in one of the world's oldest medical texts in China almost 5,000 years ago. It's called one of the 5 sacred plants in ancient India. The Greek historian Herodotus wrote about Scythian warriors cleansing themselves in its smoke. And its story eventually got to Europe through Marco Polo's tales of the Hashishin, a mysterious group whose name, believe it or not, gave us the word assassin.
All right, now we're going to jump forward to the modern era. This is when Western botanists and chemists started running into these compounds, not as folklore or religious tools, but as things to be studied under a microscope. It was a whole new age of rediscovery.
Our first stop is Central Africa. For centuries, the Bwiti cult in Gabon has used the root of the iboga plant for these really intense, multi-day initiation rituals. The West first heard about the powerful visions this plant could cause back in 1903, and that, of course, got scientists really interested in its active ingredient, ibogaine.
Meanwhile, half a world away, deep in the mountains of Mexico, another powerhouse plant was waiting for the outside world to find it, Salvia divinerum. Its active compound, salvinorin A, is totally unique, and it might just be the most potent, naturally occurring visionary compound there is. And the story of how scientists finally pinned it down is pretty amazing.
Okay, so picture this. It's 1962. An ethnobotanist named R. Gordon Wasson is invited to a ceremony with the Mazatec people. They called the plant Ska pastora, or leaves of the shepherdess. He drank the juice from the crushed leaves and later wrote about seeing these incredible visions, strikingly brilliant, brightly bordered images. He even sent samples to Albert Hofmann. Yep, the guy who discovered LSD. But it actually took years for other researchers to finally track down and isolate the mystery compound causing it all.
Salvinorin A. So, as we start to pull all these different threads together, you can really see that these visionary plants have played so many different roles in the human story. They're not just one thing, they're more like a mirror, reflecting our own hopes, our fears, and our deepest curiosities.
For one, they've been a medicine. Remember that ibogaine plant from the Bwiti rituals? Well, today, scientists are seriously studying its main compound, ibogaine, for its incredible potential to help treat really stubborn addictions.
But at the same time, they've absolutely been a poison. We just have to look back at the witch's garden. Plants like Datura and Belladonna weren't just used for visions, but for their toxic effects, capable of causing total delirium or even death.
And of course, they have been a sacrament. This is a huge one. From the Bwiti using iboga to speak with their ancestors, to cannabis being named a sacred plant in the Hindu Vedas, these plants have been a bridge to the spiritual world for people all over the globe.
But maybe, above all else, they're like a key that can unlock hidden doors inside our own minds. When Wasson described seeing those strikingly brilliant images, he really captured the essence of it, the power to show us landscapes within our own consciousness we never even knew were there.
Which brings us right back to where we started, doesn't it? This whole incredible, dangerous, and timeless search for plants that change the way we see the world. It seems to be a basic part of the human story. So maybe the real mystery isn't just in the plants themselves, but in the human mind that never stops looking for them.